But it's a great road win. A lot of guys played, continue to get better, and I think we're in good shape.
That's Jim Scarcelli from yesterday saying he thinks we are in pretty good shape. Wasn't talking about me. Could have been talking about himself. He was talking about Michigan after their game against Indiana and being midway through the season. And we are on to the second half. It's great to be with you here. Thanks for joining us. We like talking about Michigan. We're live weekdays at 1 o'clock doing just that. Part of the Maize and Blue review, and we're presented by Rivals, and we are here talking about the latest in Michigan sports, which today will include the big matchup that is going to take place coming up Saturday. It's going to be a great Saturday for college football fans, great Saturday for specifically Michigan fans, and we will be talking about that game coming up. Also, college football heating up all over the country, and it's a special day. It'll be a special day at Michigan, a special day across the country. Also, over the last 24 hours, a little bit of controversy for Michigan that's popped up online. We'll get to that coming up. But when it's the midway point of the season, what do? At times, you pull out the red pen and you grade the team, you grade the players, you grade the coaches, you just start grading. And I've got the red pen out, and I put some grades on this team. And you think about yourself. I went out there, should I grade every single player? Should I grade every single coach? Should I grade the schedule, the second half, all the different things? Play calling. I graded it where I said, who deserves an A? Who after 6 games would I say, that guy, he gets an A. And then I made that list. And then I made a list of guys who I thought were pretty close to getting an A. And then I made a list of some guys that probably can produce A-type performances and play, especially in the second half of the season, but they didn't do that in the first half. And so I did that with the team, and then I went to the overall team, and then I went to the coach, the head coach, and I gave him a letter grade as well. So I will get to that before I talk about Michigan and Penn State. As always, if you're out there and want to get your thoughts in, go ahead, type them up on the screen, and in real time, I'll put your opinion, your question, your grade up on the screen. Like you see, LTM is up there. He's saying hi to everyone. That's the way it's done. You can do that. Go ahead and try it out. All right, with that, let's get to some of the grades and the midterm grades and players that I thought that deserved to get an A at the halfway point. On the offensive side, I went with Ronnie Bell, number 1. Ronnie Bell's been Michigan's number 1 wide receiver. He came back from the injury. He's a captain, and he's been a nice security blanket for J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, he had some drops in the non-conference schedule that had, people groaning maybe for a second, but go ahead and drop a couple against Hawaii if you're going to come back and make, like in that first series, that grab that he made against Indiana, if you're, you're watching, you can see me laying out. Actually, it would have been, I might have to twist around. He did a great job making the catch and getting his feet down there. Ronnie Bell, he scored on that end around against Iowa. And to me, this is a guy that deserves a straight up A in the first half. Who else? I looked at somebody else in the wide receiving core, and I went to Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson, right from the start, has come out there, and Ron Bellamy, the wide receivers coach. He was doing one of his weekly appearances in front of the media, and he called him twitchy. And when you're an athlete, you don't mind being called. That's a nice compliment. He's super fast. He's twitchy, and in that slot, he's a big time playmaker. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's going to be available. He missed last game against Indiana. It wouldn't surprise me if Roman Wilson is back and would be ready for Michigan coming up this Saturday against Penn State. Maybe a little bit too early to call to say, yeah, you expect them to be in there, but a chance. As we, sit here on this Tuesday, the 11th, that Roman Wilson, I'll give him an A for the first 6 games and for the midterm grade. Who else? I looked at the tight end position and Luke Schoonmaker. Schoonmaker came on last year in the Indiana game, had those 2 touchdowns, and really since then, and with the loss of Eric All, he stepped right in. Michigan has not missed a beat. The tight end position is solid. There, he is. What do you say? A playmaker. He's a giant. He gets it done blocking, and he can also catch the football, and he can run after catching it. All good things. I'm going to give Schoonmaker an A based on what I've seen from him through the first 6 games. And then, of course, I think if we're all sitting around putting our grades out and saying, if I just threw it to you and say, hey, who would you give an A to in the first half of the regular season for Michigan? Most people, almost immediately, the first person that they would say is Blake Corum. Blake Corum, all throughout, has been tremendous. 5 touchdowns against UConn. He had 30 carries and 245 yards against Maryland, and it just keeps going. And then, he had that great run in the first series, that 49-yarder, which should have been a touchdown, but 25 carries, 124, a touchdown. Last game, 29, 133, and a TD. Blake Corum has been awesome. I didn't use with the players. I did with the coaches any minuses or pluses, but if there is an A+ to be given out, I'd give an A+ to Blake Corum. A half dozen games in. Number 2 has been fabulous. And Corum, this is good. It doesn't always happen, but see, maybe it happens a lot though. You get a player who's just outstanding, and then they talk at the end of the game on the field, and then afterwards in the news conference, or you see them in the off season. They'll do different interviews. Blake Corum is a real easy guy to root for. You listen to him talk, he knows what to say, he knows how to say it, and it all seems to be very genuine. And this isn't about going down, although this is nice that that when the name, image, and likeness came out, Blake Corum's down, and I don't know the exact particulars, but the giving back to the community. I think he was down at Ypsilanti. I don't know if he was handing out turkeys. It seems like that, but I'm not 100% sure. But gives back to the community. You listen to him talk. I mean, he is just somebody that you want to root for. Very easy to root for. What was the game? Was it after Iowa or Maryland? Probably Maryland, when he ran for 243 yards, and Jenny Taft was down there, and he's like, man, I'm playing for my teammates. I'm playing for Michigan fans, and everything that you'd say, come on, this guy's awesome. So Blake Corum, an A+ for Blake. Let's do it. Let's all agree on that one. All right. Looking over the other side of the ball, I was able to write 3 A's down. Mike Morris, for the way that he has played. Mozzie Smith in the interior of the defensive line, he gets an A. And Rod Moore, also at the safety position for me, and coming up with some interceptions. A really good tackler to me. Rod Moore wasn't in for spring last year, but jumped on the 2 deep last year, made his way all the way up, the starter. Just think about last year for a second when it comes down to Rod Moore. Michigan needed, in the last 6 minutes, they needed that Eric All 47-yard touchdown, which everybody will remember forever. I'll be 100 years old. I don't know. I'll be 75 years old, and somebody will say, hey, what do you remember about the 2021 season? I'll say, the Michigan, they lost to Michigan State, but they came back, and with 6 minutes to go, Eric All scored on a 47-yard touchdown. I hope I still sound like that. Maybe I already sound like I'm a 75-year-old, but it was a very memorable play, and it really springboarded them in the second half of the season, where they went on then and beat Ohio State, and then beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship game and went to the college football playoff. First time all the way back in 2021. We'll never forget it, that Penn State game. But also, in addition to the All touchdown, Michigan needed a 4-and-out. Remember, they fumbled the ball. They needed to get a 4-and-out from Penn State. The game was a 1-score game. It was just a 21-17 final. And Jahan Dotson, who ended up being drafted by the Commanders, he scored a touchdown in his first game as a rookie. He's tremendous return man, wide receiver, all of that. Rod Moore was right in his face and blanketing him on that 4-and-out that Michigan was able to get to preserve that victory and get a W at Penn State. And it pushed them up to the 6th-ranked team in the country, all of that. And Rod Moore was a big part of that. And I don't say ironically, but it's a good thing to point out this week as Michigan gets ready to take on Penn State. Rod Moore was big late in that game against the Nittany Lions. And right now where I'm at, he gets an A. And you might be somebody who has all the pro football focus grades and you have them all recorded. And then when you hear somebody talk about the players, you look through and you say, I don't know why you're saying that. Pro Football Focus doesn't think so. And I like Pro Football Focus, and they do a nice job of ranking the players. It gives you something to talk about. And look, I watch the games twice, sometimes more than that. And I'll break it down a little bit, just like everybody else, probably more than everybody else. Read about it, talk about it. But when it comes down to offensive line play, defensive tackle play, am I going back and watching every single play and thinking, hey, that's a -2, that's a +2, even if I knew sometimes I don't even know what the assignment is. I don't even know what's going on. But so it serves a role. But you could be like, I don't know, that guy didn't have a very good Pro Football Focus grade, in game 3 of the year. And that's fair enough. This is not based on, I see all the Pro Football Focus rankings, and I don't know if it goes, I don't know if I see it and then I forget about it or where I file it away. Maybe it influences me. I'm not sure, but this is not any Pro Football Focus based grading scale. This is just me from what I have seen. And I was sitting around thinking about it last night as I was watching that Monday Night Football game. I'm thinking, okay, let me get my red pen out and start grading these guys. Who gets an A? And so Rod Moore was able to pick up an A. And then on special teams, also, unfortunately, out for the year, the ace of special teams, Caden Colazar. You think about him coming through and getting that big block that he had. Gunner, special teams extraordinaire, Caden Colazar, who, unfortunately, like I said, is out for the year. I also gave Colazar an A. So that's how those are the players that I gave. There's some people, you're a Michigan fan. Let's give everybody an A. Everybody gets an A. Everybody's great, and so not everybody's been great. And maybe there are some. And like I said, the next slide that I'm going to show you, there was a handful of players that I was close to giving an A to, and I didn't. You could say that guy deserves an A, and maybe he'll show up on that particular list. But let's, like we always like to do, get some of the feedback in and see where the people are sitting. Jason is giving a good afternoon. We can't leave you out. I did the same thing. You're doing this 1 p.m. show. It's an A+ in my book, Dennis. Keep up the great work. Go Blue. Jason, let's just keep this text up here, this particular feedback up for the entire show. And this is a first for me. I'll be able to mark it down, 114. I have been able to receive an A+ in something. I don't know if I ever got an A+ in anything down throughout the years, but that's pretty cool to be able to get that. Third Minded is in the house. James giving everybody a Go Blue. Here's some Third Minded feedback. He says, even if he can run it 30 times, I don't want them to run into the ground. I love Corum, though. Get Edwards involved, similar to how Georgia used Cook. They used Cook, and then they had his running mate who was getting some snaps for the Raiders last night. They had a 2-prong attack. Yeah, I think they tried to do that. They tried to get Donovan Edwards some love against Indiana this past week. I think that they're thinking the same thing. I know that Michigan knows that they have 2 special backs. And I know that Michigan feels really good about their offensive line. And I know that Jim Harbaugh, and we all know because we saw it last year, Michigan's identity was ground and pound. It was not some aerial assault, quick, let's attack the entire field. It was, we're going to beat you up front. We're going to tenderize you. We're just going to continue to do it. We're going to keep pounding the rock, hammering at it. And before long, it's going to pay dividends. We're going to wear you down and all of that. And, what happens when it's not working is that you seem like you're a lot of things: stubborn, boring, vanilla, predictable, old school to a fault, all of these things. And some of that stuff's true. Like, I would like to think that Michigan would go up to the line every time and say, hey, you know what? There's 8 guys in the stack box. We're going to go and we're going to have a beater for this. And we're going to change this up at the line. You're going to check with me and I'm going to go to a pass. And if you're going to continue to walk guys up there, we're going to beat you over the middle. And we're going to throw a pass. We have something for everything. And, that it's some of the argument this week about, Michigan and they should be throwing more. They should be throwing down the field more. They should be attacking more with the talent that they have. And again, I think there's some truth to that. Like I said yesterday, that if there's a worry or something that I would like to see to be able to get rid of that question mark, it is the vertical passing game and being able to get the ball and push it down the field and get chunk plays. I would also, along with that, would say, come up big on third down. I mean, these are things like, yeah, this is what you'd like to do when you want to be a really good football team and certainly a potent offense. You want to be able to have big play ability. You want to be able to use the entire field, and you want to be able to score points. And, there was an issue with that on Saturday in the first half, but we should say in the second half, they sorted some of that out, and they did get it going, and they did start scoring, and they rang up 21 points, which is pretty good. I think this team should average in the 40s, and for a second half, for one half, the second half against Indiana, they did. But, using Corum too much, you say all of that. And I go back to when I covered Michigan with when Fred Jackson was the running backs coach. And Fred Jackson is filling in for Mike Hart. Get well, Mike Hart. And Fred Jackson, you'd say, I'd ask him a lot of questions. Hey, Fred, what about this? What about that? And when's it too many carries? He's like, I like my guy that wants a lot of carries. And, I gave Chris Perry, 51 carries one time against Michigan State. And he liked to feature one back, whether it was, Chris Perry or then it was, there was Anthony Thomas before him. A lot of backs like that. And Mike Hart, giving it to him a million times. So I think when it comes down to Fred, but you know what? Fred knows that he has 2 dynamic backs. And you can say, like, what's the sweet spot? What's the difference between 20 carries, 25 carries, 30? Does it have a cumulative effect? All of that, wear on the tire. I don't know. Like, Corum's a young guy. He looks like he's in great shape. But I just remember last year when Corum went down and it was like, well, what's Michigan going to do with, they just have Hassan Haskins. And the answer was, give it to him 27 times against Indiana. Give it to him 31 times against Penn State. Give it to him 28 times against Ohio State for 169 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, that was the answer. Load them up, saddle them up, let's go. And there could be a little bit of that. Like, I don't think they wanted to use Blake Corum 25 times this past Saturday, but they got into a spot where they felt, you get where you trust one guy in your favorite, whatever your favorite play is. Talking about as a staff and everything they talk about, that's Blake Corum right now. And, there's one side, people are like, okay, Corum win the Heisman. What's he have to do? We want to see him win the Heisman. The other side's like, hey, let's be judicial and let's not overuse him. So whatever that fine line is, I hear you, third-minded. Sometimes you just like to line up every time and give it to him. But then, how are you going to be able to get all of these receivers, the tight end, and Donovan Edwards some work as well? Because heck, you know what? Even though I picked Blake Corum to be the MVP of this team before the season, Donovan Edwards might be, ultimately a better back. He's not right now. He hasn't performed that way, but I think he's got that kind of talent, if you know what I'm saying. more deep routes, no matter if JJ hit him or not. Well, that is something that you would like to see. If you think about the offense, what can the offense do to take the next step? More touchdowns, more points, more shots downfield, taking the top off the defense, vertical passing game. I think all of those fit in. Steven says we need to take those deep shots against Penn State, even if we're not connecting. This is a game I'm okay with Corum having 30 carries if that's what it takes to win. I wish he had a few less last weekend. Yeah, well, again, I hear what you're saying. Sometimes you like to do that. You're right. What's the advantage is just going back and just firing the ball way down the field? Well, one, it puts it in the mind of those safeties. Like if they're always walking up there and they say, you know what, you're not going to throw it deep. We don't have to worry about that anyways. He's not going to be able to connect anyways. Let's walk those safeties up. Let's put more men in the box. Let's overpopulate the line of scrimmage. Well, you start taking deep shots even if you're not connecting. You're like, hey, this guy's lining up and throwing downfield anyways. Maybe we better keep that in the back of your mind. I'm with you, Steven. I like it. James is excited to watch his first game in the box seats this weekend. Now, James, I don't know. So are you talking about, so you didn't say the luxury suites. So on the other side of the press box, the one side's the west side, and the other, that's where the press box is at over in the corner. So you're over on the east side. In front of some of those luxury boxes, there are some box seats. Is that what we're talking about? I sat over there one time in a Minnesota game a few years ago, but we also had seats inside of the luxury box over there where they had the one area that is an entire cafeteria. They do have some bar stools that are up to, and you can look right out. And then I think you walk out there, and I think there are some box seats on there. So you might be, now that I'm thinking of it, it was a few years ago that I was out there and I went that. Yeah, you go up and you take the elevator up, and then, there you are. And you got the Heisman Trophy. You got a couple different things. You're in there. It's an enclosure. Like I said, the cafeteria, you can kind of sit around. You're like, wow, this is way too nice for a football game. And then, you just mosey on out and you find your box seats. Is that what we're talking about for you, James? Yeah, that's nice. The nicest thing about it is you're out there, you're in the atmosphere, you got everything going, you're in the crowd, you're right there. And then you just 10 feet back, you're in like a 5-star hotel. The bathroom, anything, everything's great. I saw today, and I didn't go any further on it. Maybe I'll do this for tomorrow. They were, somebody had screenshotted something from the Regents, what they were approving and everything. And it said something in there about $12 million for a new scoreboard. And I knew that they were talking about new scoreboards, updating the ones that they had. But the part that was interesting to me, or more interesting than even getting the scoreboards, because I already knew about that, it said, and again, here I am talking about something I don't have right in front of me. It said, enclosing the suites. So what I am envisioning, wherever you have the scoreboard right now, I'm thinking they're going to put a jumbotron, that it's going to be a curvature, and it's going to enclose those luxury seats on both sides, and you're going to have a Jerry Jones curved type jumbotron on each side of Michigan Stadium, and it's going to be ready to go by kickoff next year. Exciting. That's right. Third Minded is, he loves how the team looks. They're playing a lot of players. They're building depth. The team gets an A. Depth. The team gets an A. All right. Well, let's see, because I did grade the team too. I went through, these are all the A's that I gave out. Now, the next one are players that just missed getting an A. And those players include Ryan Hayes, Olo Atimi, Jalen Harrell, Oki, Abi Oki, Mason Graham, RJ Moten, Jamon Green, Mike Sanders, DJ Turner. We could sit here and argue and say, you know what, I really think Hayes deserves, and you might be right about that. Again, this is me but just me grading it out there, not looking at scores from a computer or this is my own thoughts about how I graded it. And if we had 10 people grade it, they might have some of the same. It might be all different. On the bottom, I put guys that I think need a boost in the second half to get up there, and I think all three of these players are potentially even A plus players. Zach Zinter. Zach Zinter, when he was a freshman, I was told that he was one of the great offensive line prospects in Michigan history, certainly at guard. And last year, I was told he was the best, regardless of position or anything. He was the best offensive lineman that Michigan had. And so this year, I don't know, he got beat against in the Hawaii game. Last game there was some. You look out there and you're like, so I think part of it is a little bit of a curve. I'm expecting, Steve Hutchinson type play from Zinter, and I haven't exactly seen that. I know he has it in him, but I think he needs a little bit of a boost in the second half. Andrell Anthony, after what I saw that he did against Michigan State last year, and we all can talk about him, like he looks like he could be an A player, and they use him a little bit, and he's whether he's keeping his head into it, whether he's poised for a big second half, all those things. Maybe he's just big in big time games. I think all of that is possible. But if I am grading him in the first 6 games, I'm not giving him an A, even though both his first and last name start with an A. I would like to give Andrell Anthony an A for the second half. And then Junior Colson. Junior Colson is a lot is to be expected from him. This guy is like the captain of the defense out there at linebacker, right in the middle, in all the things that need to go on there. And if you told me if there was one guy that I could pick that could have an A, and you're allowed to pick a lot of guys, it's a tough question. If you could pick one guy, you could say, I want that guy to get an A in the second half. I'd pick J.J. McCarthy. But I would pick on defense Junior Colson. If you could get Colson out there, stopping the run, being able to work in pass defense, blitzing, all the things that he does right there in the middle of the defense, I'd pick Junior Colson. Now, you may say, why isn't J.J. McCarthy on the list for an A? He's been exceptional. He's, look at him. Look at all of the passing, the short passing, the efficiency, all of that. And look at, you said yourself yesterday that you thought he played his best game. I mean, why are you shortchanging JJ? And I'm not shortchanging JJ. I think he's been pretty good. And the reason that I did not give him the A are being a little bit loose with the ball in the Big Ten. Now, I don't even really mind, like, you don't like turnovers, but the pick that he threw against Indiana, he's throwing into his own end zone, not from his own end zone, into the end zone. There's picks and then there's picks. That's not all that bad. You don't like them. You don't want them. All of that, trying to squeeze a ball in there. I was all right with that. But, the previous game, losing the ball and having it, spin down by your own goal line, I didn't like that. And then the 2 other fumbles, both of them were recovered by Michigan. I didn't like those either. So those are what prevented me from giving him the A. Like, I'm down on him. In fact, I'm very high on him. I think he's fabulous. I think he gives Michigan a nice chance to go undefeated in the second half. Gives Michigan a chance. I'll spoil it a little bit because I'm coming up and I'm going to talk about the Michigan Penn State game. I think he's going to be the difference. So I'll take any criticisms. Comes with the territory. That's what I'm saying. We'll knock down a couple more, and then I'll give you the grades for the team overall and the coach. Jason is now living in Georgia. He misses the Red Coat Tavern, Miller's Bar Burgers. The wife and I need to plan a trip soon. Well, Jason, now you're going off the beaten path here. You're not talking about Michigan. You're talking about burger places. But I just happen to be, maybe not a surprise to anybody out there, an expert when it comes to hamburgers. And if you told me to knock down some of my favorite burger places. What's the one in Ann Arbor that's across from the train station that I think that they might be closing or did close down during the pandemic? I like that place. And I like Crazy Burger, Jim's Crazy Burgers and all that in Ann Arbor too. I'm out here at Dexter, but the Red Coat Tavern, man, those burgers are, if we're giving A's out for burgers, I'll give the Red Coat Tavern an A. And Miller's Bar down in Dearborn, a few times down covering the Tigers and the Red Wings for 14 years. Sometimes, going down to practices and all that, you get a little bit extra time down in Detroit. You hear people say, let's go over and go to Miller's. It's the best burger place in all of Michigan. And I did it. And I'll give Miller's an A too. I like it. They just, I like the setup. You sit down. It's like an old time back when you get smoky bar, except you can't smoke anymore, which is fine. But they just slap everything on the table. You want a burger? Slap it on the table. No plates. You want some fries? Slap the fries on the table. I think hopefully they do a good job. It's been a few years cleaning up the table. They just slap them. So you got a wrapper there. You're all right. But I think they do a good job cleaning them too. Jason, when you get back into town, you let me know. Maybe I can meet you down at Miller's. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. If I'm going to take a million minutes on every text, I'm going to be here till 4:00. Shadyville, I arrived late. JJ has to have an A unless he's being graded on a curve. 9 touchdowns, 1 pick, another TD on the ground. Yep, I've been through that one. Here I'm getting an A from Third Minded. I like that. Steven has the annual family tailgate this weekend. I wish I could make it. Family tailgate for Michigan? Michigan, Penn State? I love tailgates. My favorite thing, if I could tailgate, I like tailgating at the golf course. I don't like tailgating at the golf course because 10 years or so ago, I was out there at the golf course and somebody was throwing around a football, which is my favorite tailgate game. And you got a lot of different ones. But just give me a football and a grill and throw it back and forth. That's all I need. But somebody else in that tailgate had brought a set of bocce balls. And, the Michigan fairways, you're out there. And I went out there and had one of the greatest times of my life tailgating, playing bocce ball. Bocce ball. Yeah, that's what it's called. So I now have my own set. And for the last, not this year, but the previous 5 years, I did a pregame out at the golf course. And I would bring the bocce balls and I would tell people. And, it's fun anywhere, your own grass, you can throw it. But when you get out of the fairways at Michigan, you can throw the ball 100 yards. And then you're swinging that arm with a bocce ball. And it's as good as, you see people that play bocce. They play in Europe, I think, a lot. But you see these like perfectly level grass tracks that they use. And you're like, ooh, that's nice. Well, the fairway at Michigan is, it tops it all. I mean, it's really awesome. All right, here I am doing it again. There's the players that just missed, and now we get to the coaches. Midterm grade for the team and the coaches, I give them an A-. Midterm grade for the team and the coaches, I just graded the head coach. I would give all the other coaches an A-. Why the minus for Michigan? They're 6-0. They're the number 5 team in the country. More on that in a minute. I give them an A- because 2 of their 3 games here in the Big Ten, they've been in a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. It hasn't been perfect. I don't even know if it's been close to perfect. There's some things that they need to work on, although they've made the adjustments. But overall, and you can haggle with me a little bit, and you say I'm a tough grader. A minus, what are you doing? They're in perfect position. They're in good position, and there's lots to like about this Michigan team. That's the thing. I mean, if there was a lot to moan and groan about, man, I'd be moaning and groaning. I can moan and groan with the best of them. But they're sitting here at the midway point, and they're doing really good. And that includes the coaches, it includes the players. I really liked how Harbaugh handled the quarterback situation. Now, do I like, there's a lot of consternation about tipping plays and telegraphing plays and how they're utilizing the offense, or how they're utilizing JJ McCarthy in the offense, that they're making him a game manager, all this. I like tape guys that go through it all, and play guys. I wish I could, I would call this and I would call that. And so all of those opinions I listen to and I like to think about, but I think for the most part, I know what they're doing and what they're trying to do. And it goes back to something I said earlier. When you run a lot and you're not having success, it really makes you look boring, tired, doesn't make you look any fun, old school, and it really it's like in baseball when a team doesn't hit. You always hear, you watch baseball, a team doesn't hit, and you're like, this team's pathetic. They don't even try. It kind of looks like that when you run the ball and it's not working. You're like, these coaches have no imagination. Let's use everything that they've got. Why do they even have a quarterback? All of those things happen when you don't run the ball and have success. It makes it makes everything clunky. So yeah, my suggestion is, if they're stacking the line, audible and go to something else. My opinion is just have six. I know this is going to be really groundbreaking. Have success on the ground. Get big chunk plays on the ground. Pick up 3rd and shorts, 4th and 2s. Be able to run it in down when you're close to the goal line. And then marry that up with big plays in the passing game, and you're going to be all right. You're not going to have everybody crying about telegraphing plays or why do they look like I always know that they're going to run, because they always run. It's Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, at some point, doesn't matter if you took 11 guys and put them all right in the box and you got 2 wide receivers at the end and it's 4th and 1. Jim Harbaugh is going to tell his quarterback, I don't care. Don't audible out anything. I don't care if a guy's standing out there for a touchdown. We're going to run the fullback. I know they don't have to have a fullback this year. We're going to run Corum. 11 guys that are all standing there. We're going to do it just like in Iowa City. They're all standing there. They're all had 3 linebackers all standing right where Corum was going. Everybody knew where the play was going. And Michigan's like, Harbaugh's like, I don't care. Pick it up anyways. That's some old school. That's, you get a little cocky with that run game. You talk to the old offensive linemen that used to play for Michigan, they love it. You got to just keep pounding them, pound the rock. You got to keep tenderizing a defensive line, and you can tenderize them all game. And you know what happens? You get into the 4th quarter, and you just exert your will, and you take over the game. And this is not me, because I never played on the offensive line, but this is me echoing what I've heard from former Michigan offensive linemen. There's nothing more satisfactory than pounding and leaning and exerting your will all game long and tenderizing that defensive line, only to take over in the 4th quarter. And that's the Michigan dream, Michigan offensive lineman's wet dream. They love it. And Harbaugh, he likes his offensive lineman. He likes it too. He can't get away from it. I think it's his wet dream too. Or just a dream. It doesn't have to be a wet dream. All right. We have gone over all of the grades. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's talk about this game coming up on Saturday. Here's what I think that Michigan needs to do. What do I think is going to happen? Well, I think if Michigan can stop the run and put it in Sean Clifford's hands, that it's going to be advantage Michigan. When Michigan has the ball, I don't think it's coming down to the run game. I think the difference in the game on Saturday between Michigan and Penn State is going to be the play of J.J. McCarthy being able to both run the ball and throw the ball. And that's going to be the difference in why Michigan beats Penn State. There's probably another 10, 20 items over the course of the next 3 days that I'll identify, but those are the two. I'm going to be as vanilla and straightforward as those Penn State helmets. Stop the run. Quarterback play is going to be the difference. I'm picking Michigan to win the game. That's where I'm at with it right now. That's where I'm sitting here. And that's how I'm feeling about it. So there you go. Speaking of this Saturday, I've got a tweet. You know him from ESPN. You might not have known his last name. But the Bear. Somebody sent me an email a few years ago and said I look like a bear. I'm like, wait, I look like the Bear, not a bear. Not Bobby A. Bear that played for the Michigan Panthers back in the day of the Saints. No, Bear from ESPN. And then I looked and I said, wait a second. You mean this bald fat guy with the glasses on? That's who you're saying? And I had to take a step back and I'm like, Bear's lost some weight. Bear's looking pretty good. I think Bear is kind of an attractive man, but he's got a lot of information. And here's what he had to say about this Saturday. It's going to be just the second time in college football history that there are 3 matchups of teams 5-0 or better on the same day. 5-0 Penn State at Michigan. At 6-0 Michigan. 6-0 Alabama at 5-0 Tennessee. And 5-0 Oklahoma State at 5-0 TCU. Numbers are nice. Undefeated matchups. Those are like the 3. I don't even know if those are the 3 best games of the day, but that's Michigan, Penn State. We've been waiting a long time for it. There it is. The good thing about this particular matchup is that Michigan and Penn State are at noon. Bama and Tennessee and Oklahoma State at TCU, they're at 3:30. So you get done with a big Michigan victory, and if you're tailgating with your family out there like Steven, you'll be able to have a flip. You only need to flip back and forth of 2 exceptional 3:30 games. That's a nice window to have. It is setting up, as college football fans, exactly what we like. I like it. That's the window. You may say, well, if it's the second time, when was the first time? Good question. The other instance was back in 93. You had Florida State. They beat Virginia. You had Nebraska beating Kansas State, and you had Auburn beating Florida. Why Kansas State wasn't ranked, and yet they were undefeated? Kansas State's Kansas State. A lot of times you are, and you're ranked with the writers and the coaches. A lot of that has to do with how much weight you carry, what kind of program you have, that kind of thing, which gets us to our next point, and that was the top 25 voting from last week. Now, you might not have thought that it was any big deal. Let's get that out there. And we look at it every week, and we talk about it. And I had Michigan number 4 in the preseason. I thought they were a little underrated, and then they got up to number 4. But as I have told you, as the weeks have gone by here, now Clemson was really close in the point total to Michigan last week, even though the Wolverines have, stayed there at 6-0. And I don't think it's any big deal at all. I think it's very reasonable, and I think it's very understandable why a voter would put Clemson in front of Michigan. I'm not angry if you're a true blue fan and this ticked you off a little bit. I could tell that people that cover Michigan that said, this is BS, or what are they thinking? I saw some of them on Twitter, and what I was surprised about is just how many retweets and likes that people that thought this was some kind of injustice, or people that said, it's not really an injustice, but what the hell are they doing? Just, unbelievable amount of interaction on that. And I'm thinking, really? Are Michigan fans, that's really how they feel? Clemson has taken down 2 top 25 teams. We've already mentioned, I'm not trying to knock Michigan at all. But could you understand how somebody outside of Ann Arbor would look at Michigan's 2 other 3 games in the Big Ten and maybe even against Iowa watching that? It's not like all 3 of those games you watch, you're like, oh man, Michigan, they look awesome. No, and 2 of those 3 games were in a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. None of those teams are ranked. Tennessee's top 3 top 25 teams. It is a very reasonable, even if you're a super duper Michigan fan, even if you cover Michigan, that if you turned in a vote of Michigan being the 6th team, it does not mean that you're some Michigan hater, does not mean that you have no idea about college football. It means that you're looking at the schedule, you're looking at the teams. And the one thing that I've always wanted, I think we all spend too much time looking at the top 25. People hate the preseason top 25, and yet everybody's like, ooh, number 5, number 10, and then they're all upset if somebody's moving it around. I like when a voter, they can't watch a million games. And in fact, if they're going to a game, how are they watching some early games and watching highlights, and how many games are they taping? Like, how many games can you really watch? It's the dude that sits on his couch and starts watching at noon and then watches the 3:30 window, then maybe catches a 5 o'clock game, then catches a 7:30 game. Those are usually the people that know the most of what's going on. But I like the voters who will move a team way up or move a team way down based on what they watch. If you sit around and you watch, let's just say for Tennessee, for an example, and you watch them, you're like, man, this team looks awesome, and they're on the road. And, technically this team is a top 25. I'm going to move them up. Or if you watch, in this case, let's just say Michigan. And you're like, they didn't play anybody in the non-conference. Nobody's going to argue with that. And then the 3 games, they won them, but I'm going to drop them down a little bit, even though you don't have to. You're not obliged, if you cover Michigan, to say, no, there's no way I'm absolutely moving them down. You want to try to be fair. Problem is, most of the fans and think that most of the media are not trying to be fair. They're trying to move things around because they're all just doing things because they hate Michigan. It's the kind of stuff you hear. They don't like Michigan. And the truth is, Michigan has as big a brand as anybody in college football, and that helps them way more times than somebody's using it against them. And I know people hear that are big-time Michigan fans, that it's like crossing their wires. They're like, what? No, it's not. People hate on Michigan. They hate on Jim Harbaugh. No, they don't. Michigan gets more breaks because they're Michigan than almost anybody out there. Sure. Do I think Alabama? Do I think Clemson might be getting a little shine because of Dabo and what they've done over the last 5 years? It's a little bit of human nature. But Clemson has a top 10 win on their wall. That's better than anything that Michigan has. So don't hate on them. Or don't act crazed. No! I don't know. That's to me. I'm not going to get it. Remember, it's fun. It's entertaining. If you win all your games, I'll guarantee you this. If Michigan goes and wins all 12 of the games, they're going to be in the college football playoff. Doesn't matter. They're good. They're good on wherever they're ranked here. It's all good. If they have a convincing win, which is possible against Penn State, do I think that a voter could then move them in front of Clemson? If Clemson, whoever they're playing, I don't know, struggled a little bit, got in the fourth quarter game, I think that would be reasonable to do. That's all what I had to say about the voting. I don't know how controversial that is or not. But that's it. That's where I'm at. Okay, here's people complaining about Ohio State being up there. Okay, Ohio State has looked like the best team in the country. Unless we continue to improve, we won't have a chance. Ohio State's up there. Yeah, like the team, like you say, you would like to improve a little bit this week, improve a little bit that week, improve a little bit, improve a little bit. Remember last year, in the first 3 games that Michigan had in their non-conference slate, Michigan played Rutgers, and they didn't score a point in the second half, and they had 4 3-and-outs. They looked like they were going to lose that game. It was a grind in the second half. I mean, Rutgers was in position to pull a big upset. That was, I don't know, it was a stanker in the second half, certainly for the offense. Michigan then beat Wisconsin on the road, but then they played who? Nebraska. Nebraska scored 29 points on Michigan last year, took the lead on them. There was about maybe 10 or 15 real minutes where I was watching that game and I thought, Michigan's losing this game, or they have a really good chance to lose this game. I mean, this is going to be a loss. Now, Michigan, we know what happened. They made some big plays. Brad Hawkins came up with a big play. My point is that after that, they lost a game to Michigan State. It looked like everything was over. You don't have to keep going up, 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 up. It'd be nice. But I'm not. Don't sweat Ohio State yet. Let's wait a couple weeks. Let's see if Michigan keeps winning, and let's see. And I'm going to tell you this about Ohio State: there've been a million instances, and there's been a couple just when Harbaugh's been the coach, and even like if they put up 62 points, and you'd say, I'm never going to pick Michigan again, Ohio State. I mean, you can't. It only happened to be the very next year that you're watching Michigan, and then they're like, win. And then Ohio State's out there, and Maryland's putting like 50 points on them, but their defense sucks. And you're like, Purdue's running them off the field, and you're like, you know what? Michigan can win this game. Michigan can win this game. Michigan's favored in the game. Michigan's going to win this game. And what happens? Ohio State steps up and plays big. It's a long way to go before Michigan's got no chance against Ohio State. Ohio State's the greatest thing ever. There's a lot of things that can happen before that. I get what you're saying. Account 22 is not crowning Ohio State yet. They might be who we thought they were, Account 22. They might be, as Antoine says, and has said all offseason, that they might be a soft team. It might be the forecast for Columbus. It might be in the 20s and a good chance of snow. And Stroud hates the snow. He might have a little bit of a cold on Wednesday and be like, boo-hoo, I can't, it's going to be cold out there. I can't play. I'm going to need hand warmers. I'm going to need one of these things, ski mask. I'm going to be out there. And the offensive linemen, they're not going to be like Woody Hayes in short sleeves. They're going to be all decked out, gloves and everything else. And Michigan's going to walk out there and say, we got this. It's cold. It's gray. It's snowing. Mother Nature's a Michigan fan. Antoine likes it when Michigan's underranked. They play better as the underdog. Michigan's only at 5 because they're Michigan. Look at that. All right. So the last thing that I wanted to get to was a controversy that's been playing out over the last 24 hours online. There's been some buzz on Cade, some tweets and stuff that he's out for the year, that he's transferring. And I wanted to address it with the people here. As people come up with, they watch these other shows that these guys are out like, this guy's out, that guy's out for the year. And they're like, why isn't anybody else saying it? Well, here's how things can go. For the most part, your general public, they don't really handle injury news well. They always want a controversy, and everybody wants to know what's going on and everything else. But a lot of the stuff is not for public consumption. And then it gets out there. Then you have, I'll just say in this case, even though these guys might be, fine, I don't really know any of them. You could say these guys are rogue. So none of it really matters, and none of it really gets verified or anything else. But my thought about it is this. I saw Cade McNamara get hit in that game. And if there is is there a chance that he could be out for the year with, let's say, a knee injury? I think there is a chance on that. Do I think that there's a chance that Cade McNamara could transfer at the end of this year? After, the quarterback competition, and he would go somewhere else and play for 2 years? Yeah, I think that could happen too. So I think there's a chance that he could be out for the year. This is me having seen the hit. if you're saying, would I like him to transfer? No, I would like him to stay, make another $1 million as a backup quarterback, and with name, image, and likeness, and have him stay around. But it's very unlikely that that's going to happen, or certainly unlikely. But I would welcome him back. But if you want me to guess, yeah, I could certainly see that him transferring. So both of those things can happen. So why don't we just come out and say it then? That could be the part. Why don't you just come out and say it? Well, there's a lot of reasons. One, I don't know that for myself. I don't know this, honestly, if McNamara has undergone season-ending knee surgery. I don't know that. It's possible. So you might say, somebody has already said that. All right. I'm not disputing, confirming, denying anything. What I'm saying is it's possible. What's also possible is that a player might think that he can come back in a final game, in a playoff or something, a 1% chance that he could come back. So he does not want to declare that he's out for the year. That's what gets him up in the morning. That's why he goes out to the field. It was like some of the, we know Eric All's been out. There are people like, he's done. It's possible. It's also possible that these guys don't want to make anything official, because in the back of their mind, it's what makes them come out and keep working and going after it in the 0.001% chance that somehow they'll be able to get back onto the field. So they don't want to declare that. And for me, unless they want to make it official through Michigan, I'm all right with that. I don't think that we need to talk about it all the time and go out there, because what you see is what I saw over the last 24 hours. And these were from Michigan fans, saying, Cade McNamara's been done wrong. That's why, all of this. It's you don't even know any of that. You don't know if he's been bitter at the process. The guy is the captain at Michigan. My expectation is for Cade McNamara to be on the sideline for Michigan and to help him any way he can, through the headset, through a comment, maybe to the backup quarterback, through anything. You can do a lot of good on a headset, on the sideline, if you're not playing at all, if you're a guy like McNamara. And I would expect him, you can't travel to the road games, right? But I would expect him to be at all of the remaining home games for Michigan. And then if he wanted to transfer at the end of the year, I'd say, hey, you know what, Cade, thanks for being a stand-up captain, through all of this. And it's a tough situation, no doubt. Man, the experience that you had here, the 21, nobody's ever taken that away from you. Good luck. You're welcome back. Your legacy is intact at Michigan. Congratulations wherever you go. That's how everyone should treat Cade McNamara if he stays around here for these remaining games. Now, if he makes some announcement, whether he's out for the year or whether there's a slight chance that he can come back, that he is leaving and he's not going to be on the sideline Saturday, well, a lot of that goodwill, whether you like it or not, is off the table. It'd be a situation where, that what it would be saying that he is bitter and didn't like, the process, which is, I'm not saying that he has said that. He could be bitter and not like the process, and he could stick and stay all the way through, and his legacy would be intact. What I'm saying is if he does leave before the end of the season and is not there with his teammates, and as a guy that was voted captain, that does taint it a little bit. That's my own personal opinion. That's how I see it. If you see it any different, I've already noticed, because I've been talking on the Amazing Blue Review this morning and how different everybody's opinion is on it and every little different thing. I know that at any big time program, there's always going to be people that aren't going to be fair to the quarterback. Look, you say he wasn't any good anyways, or he was all of that. Everybody's got their own opinion. The guy did a hell of a job for Michigan last year. They won the Big Ten for the first time in 17 years. He was the quarterback. His legacy is intact that way. So we'll see how it all plays out. But as you can see, it's just one of these things that just people, they go crazy about. In particular, any kind of news that is, rumors, and, people love that stuff. And you, just like me, you want to know every single thing that's going on with Michigan. You want to know all of the inside scoop. You want to know everything that's constantly going on. with the team, and I get that. A lot of that stuff, who was it? You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the information. A lot of people can't handle the information. A lot of people in the media can't handle the information. You know, you would like if everybody was above board and could handle everything and, you know, could look at it all measured and everything else. But what we know is that it doesn't happen like that. So is there a point to all of that? Yeah. You know, there was some information that came out, the buzz of the last 24 hours. Everybody's like, oh my God, you know, is this really happening? I don't know. I don't know if it's really happening. Like I said, my expectation would be that Cade McNamara would be at every remaining home game for the rest of the year. After that, I'd wish him luck and, you know, say, you know, thanks for everything. You want to come back? You certainly can. What a great Michigan man. You'll be welcome back to any time. You know how they say, you know, the guy's never going to have to buy a drink and, you know, for the rest of his life. I don't know if that's the situation, but I kind of feel like that. Hey, number 12, thanks. What a stand-up guy. Now, if he ends up leaving early, well, then that's different. And see, we don't know that, what's going on. Not one, here's the one thing. I'll say one more thing about it. Now, I would not understand, and I know it would happen, one person that would say anything negative about Cade McNamara if he stayed the rest of this year and then transferred after this year. I can't say I can't understand because I know that there's people that say things no matter what, but I think the majority of reasonable Michigan fans would look at that and say, congratulations, Cade, and thanks for whatever you're going to do after this year. That's how I think he should be treated. It's tough when you're in the spotlight and you're the pressure cooker and you have all these things at play and there's NIL money and your quarterback and your dad's in play and people are talking all over the place and it wasn't fair. Somebody had a sore shoulder. I mean, all of it. Like, we can sit here all day and talk about it again. That's how I feel. That's where I'm at. That's how I feel. And that's where I'm at. Let's see. Let's see. John says Jim Harbaugh gave Cade McNamara a better chance than any other school would have let them do it on the field. Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and argue all day long, you know, about, you know, whether it was fair and how it played out, because there were some people after the season or I'm sorry, that after fall ball, Cade was the leader. You know, Jim Harbaugh said it himself when he came out. He's like, no, they're really even here. They're really even there. We can give Cade a little bit of the advantage here. So you can say, oh, look, Harbaugh said Cade was the leader. But there's no doubt that it was close. And then given the two games, I know people are like, Cade was always going to lose that. Not necessarily. Cade could have come out and he could have played fine against Colorado State. Cade, when he was given the opportunity, could have come in and threw the ball over the yard against Hawaii. It didn't happen. I thought it was fair. And I'm not down on anybody on the situation. I think Harbaugh handled it well. I think, you know, Cade, there were a lot of people that were miffed at Cade after the game when they were like, and he was like, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really expecting this. And like, you're not being a Michigan man. It's like, give the kid a break. He just went out there a week ago. He thought he was going to be the starter. Next thing you know, they're telling him that, you know, you're going to fight in this 2-game battle royale on the big stage, and then you go out and then, you know, play well, and everybody wants him to sit up there and be like the ultimate Michigan man. Oh, you're asking way too much. But, you know, I felt like I was way in the minority. I still feel like that. There wasn't one person that was like, oh, yeah, you're right. They were all like, no. But that's where we are. That's where I'm at. And now with these 6 remaining games, you know, these first games, the non-conference, you know, Michigan was 20, 30, 40 point, 50 point favorites, and they were double-digit favorites against Maryland, Iowa, Indiana. Now it's getting a lot tougher. You know that. 7-point game coming up this weekend. top 10 team, whatever you think about the rankings, against what should be a number 4 Michigan team. It's an outrage. Well, Michigan can go out there and show them. Show them who's number 1. Show them who's number 4. All of that. We'll talk about it more this week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the feedback. It's always a great time being here. Go ahead if you're somebody that enjoys podcasts. We got more here in the Maize and Blue Review all week long. Check them out. If you subscribe, they just pop right up in your feed. If you rate and comment, especially if you're listening to the podcast, we love those. All those things are worth their weight in gold, and we can continue to do that. That was from yesterday. Until tomorrow, we'll be here at 1 o'clock. Everybody have themselves a great day. Thanks for watching.